Hi there. As we explore the topic of culture further, let's consider the influences, the factors that affect the organisational culture of a business. Now, organisational culture is a complex area, so what I've done is I've identified 6 factors which are commonly cited or stated as potentially influences on culture. Let's go through them. The first is the influence of the founder. The person on the screen there is a guy called Ingvar Kamprad, who was the founder of IKEA, and he's perhaps one of the best examples of how culture is shaped by the founder of the business, the person who founds the business. And of course, whilst the business may eventually grow into become something much more complex and substantial, like IKEA, like a multinational, its culture is often formed or shaped right at the start by those who set the business up. The founders of the business, they set the vision, they set the core values of the business. They then in turn shape how the organisational structure is set up, how people are rewarded, the approach to decision making, and all that kind of stuff. So a key influence, the influence of the founder, the person who starts the business. Another important influence is the size and perhaps also the complexity of a business. Not all businesses become large, but as a business becomes larger, becomes more complex in terms of its organisation and its operations, then perhaps it's inevitable that the organisational culture changes too. For example, a small startup business is likely to have a much more informal approach to how things are done. And by contrast, as a business becomes more complex, it's likely to adopt a much more formal approach to decision making, to how things are done, to how communication happens within the business, the rules, the procedures, the reports, the hierarchy of the business. So as a business becomes larger and more complex, that's often a factor on culture. Third one on the screen there is what I've said is rewards. How people are rewarded, incentivized, how they're paid. The reward systems used by business, such as wages, salaries, bonuses, commission, they can be a significant influence on culture. For example, a business where employees are routinely paid using commission or other performance-related bonuses might be expected to have a slightly different culture to one where businesses are simply paid a salary, and their rewards, their financial rewards aren't directly related to their performance. An example that's often used here in culture is the financial services industry, where reward systems, particularly in sort of recent years, led to a very strong culture that encouraged what many considered to be excessive risk-taking. But rewards, another key influence. 3 more to go. Well, obviously the industry or the market in which a business operates is going to affect culture because it's linked to the previous point, reward systems. Employee rewards are often based on the nature of the industry or the market in which a business operates. And whilst most industries and markets are highly competitive, there are some industries where life really is very competitive, very intense within the industry and within the firms. Similarly, there are some industries which are highly regulated, and therefore the culture needs to be adapted and developed in order to ensure that the business doesn't fall foul of laws and regulations. Areas such as energy, banking, financial services, pharmaceuticals, and so on. So I think the industry and the market is a key influence on culture. It influences how decisions are made, who makes them, what controls are in place, how businesses are governed, and so forth. Fifth one, clearly, which must have an impact on culture, is the organisational structure itself. And in fact, you might even ask, which comes first? Is it culture or structure? Because we've already said that culture can shape the structure that's adopted. I think in reality, both organisational culture and organisational culture and structure influence each other. For example, a culture where there is really strong control from the centre, centralisation, will need different policies and controls, communication and attitudes than one where authority is distributed away from the centre, where there's decentralisation. Similarly, a business that has maybe quite a flat hierarchy, a fairly informal structure, a flat hierarchy, where there is more delegation of responsibility, is likely to have quite a different culture to one where there is a strict and quite tall hierarchy within the business. And lastly, I've just put down work environment, because I think there are lots of great examples out there, including the one on the screen there, the famous Googleplex. Lots of great examples out there where the work environment itself is a big influence on culture. Apple's new headquarters is another good example of how the design of the workplace, the work environment, is designed to support and reinforce the organisational culture. And at a really simple level, the physical environment in which people work together must surely influence the culture, not least because it has an effect on how people communicate with each other. There we go then. You can see organisational culture is quite a complex area, and I've just highlighted there 6 influences on the organisational culture of a business.